With all the perks that have been added to the game over the past year, it might be difficult knowing which ones have value and which ones don't. Today I'll rate all the perks in the game, as well as talk about which types of perks you want to be using, as well as how to use them. Agitation, C tier. It could be good for getting to hooks that you want, but waste of perks on. Nurses calling, you do not want to be running nurses. You shouldn't be going after people who are like injured and healing directly. Instead, you should just know where they are and get them later. Because see, the issue is, if you're good and the survivors are good, you'll only have marked and downed them to get them injured usually. And if they're healing, you want to be going for other people because they're going to get their gens done while you try to go for this person. So yeah, you want to go for other people, but even then, good survivors will heal in safe places, so you can't really stalk them anyway. Like, they'll go behind line of sight cover. Yeah. Barbecue and lethal. Here, wait, first I'm gonna put this in. I'm just gonna rename D for do not run if you do not run there. As per good ghosties. Wait, fuck it. Here, there, do not run. There. Put nurses in that. Nurses is just for jump scares, fair enough. I wouldn't run either barbecue or lethal. Sure, he can do fine, like, with them, but I mean, if people bring stuff to counter it, like, or they don't even have to. If there's like one distortion, it can like really mess him up. No, you're not a bad ghosty. Wait, what is it that you run? Barbecue or nurses? Bamboozle. See, okay, I'll arrange these in tiers. I can reorganize this because it's too complex to have like simple letters. So I'll call this one mid utility. And I'll call this one mid chase. Can I add another tier? Add a row below. Good chase. I'll rename this to mid tracking. Move it up here, and I'll add a row right here. Good tracking. And I guess good utility, I guess. Whatever. Here, let's move this one up here, and move this one up there. My standard for 20. Oh shoot, I forgot regression. Here, I'll put that in utility as well. My standard is 2021 set, except for replacing pop with that's keeping it old school. I like that. Bamboozle mid utility. You don't want to be. It's kind of niche compared to how long you'll be chasing with Ghosty, or how little rather. So no, don't use that. Barbecue. I'll put it in mid. Yeah, because people, even back then, like honestly, I'll be honest. I was running this mainly for the points, but people can hide behind gens, get in lockers, and people run way more anti-aura perks than they do these days, or than they did back then, rather. Yeah, exactly. Bamboozle, it's for beginning M1 players. This one, I'll add a new row below. Don't run. This is Beast of Prey, right? Or Territorial. Beast of Prey, don't run. Bitter Murmur, mid utility. Rancor is better for this kind of thing. And you shouldn't need auras. Okay, this can tell you where the players are going, but it's not enough. Okay, like that's helpful info, but if you're using this out of any of the other tracking perks, there's more perks that give you more value, is what I'm saying. Bitter Murmur is better. Edgy's for Scourge builds, yeah, true. Yep. Beat Nurse is for beginners or jump scare ghosties, yep. Don't run. You shouldn't be running a perk for exhaustion. Just run the add-on. You only really need one add-on, and that's the recovery. So you could have slots for whatever add-ons you like. This don't run. You don't need to track people by their bloodstains. Blood Warden. Don't run. Nah, it's not necessary. And the good players won't fall for it. Brutal. Mid chase. What's brutal? I don't think it's just good enough on Ghosty for using a perk slot. Or Brine. Good utility. It's great regression. That's probably gonna change. This is pre mid chapter patch. 6.7, I think that's the number. But yeah, before the patch that nerfs Brine, it's a good. You probably already know that. Good utility. Corrupt. It helps you get a feel for the 4 gens values ahead of time, and it doesn't force you to go for downs like you'd have to if people stacked on a gen on the other side of the map. And yeah, good early stocks is good. So don't run. Coup de grace, mid chase. Again, there's better perks that do what coup does, and I'll get to that. This does this even count as a chase perk? Else count, but utility or actually don't run. That's it makes the faults blocked. I forgot what it was renamed to. Cruel limits, right? Yeah, you shouldn't be using that. Because you should be stealth downing them ideally. Like, yeah, you can make all kinds of different fun builds, but I think the best thing to do is stick to the rules of being a good ghosty. And that involves going for stealth downs, always. Dark Devotion. Don't run. Sorry. I know there's some Dark Devotion enjoyers. I think, okay, I am in the minority, but I think Deadlock is kind of a mid perk in general, especially for Ghosty. You shouldn't need Deadlock to know where people are. That's Discordance. I'm just gonna put this right now. Like, Discordance is everything tracking wise. I'll get to Discordance in a second, but Deadlock, the regression is not enough. Like, it can be mitigated pretty easily if there are people on 3 gens. So instead of losing 3 gens, you'll lose 2, and that's not that good, I think. Let me think. If people do split up, Deadlock is just passive slowdown, yeah. Also, this doesn't really give you control over what gens get blocked. In fact, if survivors are like smart and the ghosty strats become common knowledge, Deadlock will, or the survivors will get the good gens done first and just block the bad gens. So get the bad gens blocked, so you will get like no value out of that. Deadman Switch, I'd say it's not that bad. I'd put it at the top of mid utility. Yeah, you can chase people off gens, and that'll give you hooks. That'll buy you time to say secure a stage if you wanted to. Yeah, I think it's okay, but it's not something I'd run though. Deathbound. I wanted this perk to be good, but let me think. Okay, with the healing thing, you should already have a general idea of where injured players are going. So if they're healing right after getting unhooked, that's not helpful. And if they're like holding their injured state, like say if they have resilience or something, nah, you still should kind of have like a general idea of where people are going. Like you need to spend a little time just scouting areas and getting a feel for where players are headed before making your move. So no, this doesn't do enough, I'd say. Yeah, you can get additional information that might help you, but well, okay, it tells you where two people are, and that's not something to scoff at, but it's not, at the moment I can't think of any good plays you can do with this that you can't do with Discordance. Deer Stalker, which I will talk about in a bit. This is very good. But yeah, I'll get to that. Deer Stalker, don't run. It's very niche. Deathbound. I'll put it at the top of don't run. Yeah, that on Oni, that's more value for sure. This distressing, don't run. Dragon's Grip, don't run. It's just kind of a meme perk in my opinion, and you should be skilled enough to know which gens to contest and how to get good downs. And even if it's on like a bad gen, like a bad like a gen you can't really stock from a distance, or a gen that you can't stock from a distance but can sneak up on, there's always a better play to make that does not involve getting someone at that particular gen. It's fun but not Ghostface material. Yeah, I can agree with that. Dying Light, the kind of slowdown you want is not the passive slowdown that affects everyone. It's focused, targeted slowdown like Brian and Pop that gets specific gens or stuff like that. So I'm just gonna put it here. Enduring, don't run. At some degree, you need to respect palettes in general, so don't run that. Eruption, what does it do again? It shows auras now when you kick gens. Okay, so about Eruption, even when it was at the height of its strength, I wouldn't still run it on Ghosty because number one, you'd have to go around kicking too many gens, which you just can't do as Ghosty, and the cooldown is pretty major. So you down someone, cooldown active, the perk procs, the cooldown begins, you hook them, and you'll get your power back in 17 seconds with the add-on, but eruption cooldown is every 30 seconds, so you'd have to wait until your cooldown comes back to go around kicking gens, at which point survivors will know where you are and you're effectively wasting your stealth. Or you'd have to do this every other hook stage, which is not that great value either, especially when you're kicking a limited amount of gens. So no, don't run. Yeah, eruption on Dredger Sadako, that's fair. I'd usually run it on like a sort of chase killer like Light, or if map control killers like Dredger Sadako, you could kick more gens and get value. Fire up. Nah, don't run it. Again, there's better perks for this. You'll see in a second. Force Penance, don't run. You won't get any value out of this because it's the person the person survivors will protect are healthy players, most likely. And You just won't get value if you hit them, because they won't proc on healthy people. Franklin's Demise, don't run. Items. There are ways to play around items that do not involve just removing them entirely. Furtive Chase, don't run. Terrorities perk. Bleh. Gearhead. That got changed. What does that do now? Okay. Survivors lose health state. It's active for 30 seconds. Okay, if they hit a good skill check. 8 seconds. This can eat distortion stacks. I can see that actually happening. Since it'll proc more than once per hook instance. I don't know if it'll give you a notification as well, so you can actually look around in time and be able to see like where it's proccing. I'd still argue that Discordance is better than Gearhead. I think we've talked about this before. Like, this can give you info if you don't want to like look around a little bit and see where players are headed and know which gens they're at. But I mean, Discordance is better. Like, I wouldn't run both ever, and given a choice between Gearhead and Discordance, I'd go with Discordance. Nah. Insta down and whoever's on a gen. Since disc is not countered by splitting up. That's the thing I want to talk about in a second. I've used it recently and did not get it just kind of happens. Fair enough. Okay. I'm gonna put this in the middle of mid tracking, above barbecue, or above nurses rather. I'll put barbecue above Gearhead. But okay, now I'll talk about Discordance now. Discordance is the best ghosty tracking perk in my opinion, like by a landslide. So it'll tell you where multiple people are. It'll tell you that people are split up, which is information, since with a limited amount of gens, you can make a pretty good prediction of where people are, especially since you've seen them before and have an idea of where they're headed. And what's more, Discordance does not let gens get done without you knowing about it if you're good at Ghosty. Gens get like done without your knowledge when people stack on them, or if you're not paying attention. Like, you should have a pretty good knowledge of where players can be when they're not like stacked on the gen, is basically what I'm trying to say. So, and this works like all the time, so you'll always know like which gens might or might not get popped anytime soon, and you plan your hook stages around gens that are close to getting done, so that you can get to that gen and stop it, hook the player who's working on it, and maybe secure a stage, maybe, or go for someone else. If that makes any sense. This perk, it blocks all the gens when you hook everyone. No, you don't want to run this. You don't want to hook everyone. Ingman's trick, niche, luck based. Yeah. Blood favor. It can get some use if you want to down multiple people on like a stacked gen, but there's a better perk for that. We will get to that soon. Hangman's trick is S tier, of course. Crowd control. Nah. Don't run. It's on the same tier as something like uh, some of these other chase perks, like Enduring, for example. You just won't have this issue if you're a good ghosty. Devour, the good perk. God perk. I'd put it above here. Devour is a good perk on Ghosty, even if you get free insta downs when you could stock and down them instead. I made a whole video about it, but what is it that makes Devour good? Let me think. You don't have to plan around your gens as much with Devour. You can just kind of go for downs, and Ghosty gets downs very quickly, mind you. And it works well even if you focus on a few people. And it's good stall as well. And you can defend your totems decently as Ghosty if you find one that survivors haven't found yet. And proxy it skillfully so that you're not obviously guarding a totem. Though it can get countered with totem tracking perks and people just stumbling upon it. But there's another perk that helps you mitigate that issue. The same perk that's better than all of these other chase perks, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Haunted Grounds, no, you don't want to run. It's not like Devour. It's not. This Haunted is. Oh, let me think. You can have an idea of when Haunted's gonna pop if you might see someone in the area, or if you just see someone on the totem and instead like go to a gen where people are and wait and then down people when it procs. But nah, I don't see it as something you can't have done by stalking. Even if it's on a gen that you can't stalk, you should just go to one that you can, or just let that gen go and you might still win. So don't run. Huntress Lullaby, don't run. I think. Okay. Noed. The only endgame perk you should be running is rank core or No Way Out, I believe. But Noed, nah, you don't need it. Pentimento, it's interesting. I'd put this in bottom of good utility. If you pair it with like a good hex, not Plaything. Right? Yeah. Any hex, any other hex. Maybe you have like a whole hex build that you could use this on. Ghosty is decent at guarding totems. Don't think that he's not. But you have to be smart about it. And you have to have a good idea of where people are on the map. You don't just want to be face camming the totem and like letting people try to bait you out of it, because you're not going to get any value that way. Plaything, don't run. I'm just gonna put it general here. Perks at the top of the list I am kind of okay with, but perks just in the middle or at the end. Retribution, I kind of forgot what that did again. What's it with Slinger's perks and me not remembering them? I forgot the specifics. I know what it basically does. So cleansing, they're oblivious. After cleansing a totem, no, you don't need to be running this again. Or okay, hold on. This can help you find someone who's actually hiding, like say someone's dead on hook. But this might have value. I've never actually thought about this perk that much. I imagine this getting paired with Devour. Like, you don't have to protect your Devour to 5 stacks. Okay, I'm gonna go back to that and say like you can get decent value out of it by 99ing everyone while you have Devour, since it's good slowdown on its own. And if you let it pop, you'll already be in a decent position with most people 99, and then you can do your regular snowball play from there. But with this one, you could, if you pair it with Retribution, that might help you anyway, because you might have gotten some hooks during Devour, you might have not, but anyway, if there's someone who's kind of like vulnerable, it can help you find them, though it can proc at misopportune times, like when you don't really have value out of that, or like when it's kind of early in the game rather. I'm gonna put it in right here. Ruin. I'd put it at the top. I don't think it's like a bad perk. It's not like trash. I still use it on like 1 or 2 killers, but you probably could combo it with like some other hex perks, but I think the best survivors will just neglect Ruin and not bother cleansing it. This, don't run. Thrill of the Hunt, don't run. Doesn't even give you the notification anymore. But hex slowdown is not something you really need anyway, even with when you're running hex perks. Undying, I just put it over here since you can pair it decently with Devour. Yeah, I ran it for a fair bit on Ghosty back then, Old Ruin. How far it's fallen. Anyway, Hoarder, don't run. Hysteria, don't run. Hysteria, wasn't it only from healthy to injured? Yeah, that's so gross. You don't want to be running it on Ghosty. I'm all ears, don't run. It's not even that good of a chase perk, in my opinion, unless you're use it on killers that don't need LOS. Infectious. Nah, don't run. I used to like it back in the day, but that was different. Like you could actually get downs not stealth. Like you could get revealed by the marked person while you're chasing them and get the down and then have an idea of where people are around you. That's not the case anymore. Insidious, don't run. Iron Grasp, don't run. Iron Maiden, don't run. Knockout, it's fun. I really like this perk sometimes. But, I mean, Swift is a thing, right? I'll put it over here. I ran it with Infectious back in the day. It was really fun, and you'd get some value out of it. Lethal, I'm gonna put it... This is a Training Wheels perk. Like, I run it on like other killers for fun that I don't take too seriously, just to have an idea of how people spawn. But you need to use environmental cues and good stalking mechanics to clear areas of the map that you know people aren't at. I used to run a build I liked called Don't Touch My Totems. It consisted of Retribution, Hunt the Ground, Undying, and Pentimento. Yeah. I mean, there's always fun builds like that. You love using Lethal? Oh, what is this? A Lightborn? Don't run. This perk, Mad Grit, don't run. Make your choice. I commended this perk back then. I think it might have value, but I just don't really feel like swapping it with my perks. So the thing with Make Your Choice, it's basically like a free bait stock. If you hook someone on one end of the map, they get saved, and you hook someone on the other, the Make Your Choice person can't save them at all. And so you only need to effectively worry about one person going for the save, and that's the person who hasn't been hooked and who did not do the rescue. So I'd put it like right here. It's a decent perk. You don't have to go for the person who's exposed to get value out of it. I bet, yeah, you can still use it. Just don't use it on Ghosty. Like, just use it to know how spawns work and stuff like that, especially on like new maps. You can. I sometimes run it on Wesker for fun. I think on some killers you can just have fun and like use lethal and also learn about the game as well. Merciless Storm, don't run. Even though it's probably in its bug state, it's probably stronger than it's ever been. Mindbreaker. You don't want to run this. You want to run the add-on instead. Fearmonger, whatever. I'll put it at the bottom of mid utility. Run the add-on that when you expose people, they get exhausted, not the other exhaustion add-on, and not this perk. As for this perk with Scorch hooks, I don't think you should use Scorch hooks either on Ghosty. I'll get to that in a second, but yeah, I'll talk about that. Monitor and Boost, don't run. Monster's Shrine. I don't think you need it. Like, I feel like it won't make that much of a difference. Yeah, people will feel pressured to get that hook save, but I mean, RNG can kind of mess you up as well. You also have to be far from the hook. Floods of Rage, I'll give an analysis on that as well. I'll put this above Mindbreaker in mid utility. Nemesis, don't run. No Way Out, I'd put it in decent utility. There is a build, the gamer build, you can call it. I'll put it, yeah, right here's a good spot. Pair this with Rancor and the best mystery ghosty perk, and I think you can get a guaranteed 3k at least. So what you want to do? Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just say the perk. It's Play with Your Food, best ghosty chase perk in the game by far. So I'll talk about it. Pair this with Rancor and this perk right here. You kill someone early, or any time before the last gen is done, rather. That's what I mean by early. So kill someone, you can tunnel them out, camp them, I don't care. You can tunnel them with Play with Food and you'll still be able to down them easily because that's Play with Food value. You're gonna find the obsession if people are going for hook saves and trying to protect the injured person. So yeah, you kill someone before last gen is done and you farm your Play with Food stacks. When last gen is done, you get your Rancor kill right away. No Way Out procs. You down one person. No Way Out will likely still be happening, and you can choose to hook them or go and down the other person. Boom. Easy 4K build. I don't want to run that because that feels like just comp cheese methods. But that is a very good build for someone who has had it with getting bullied by survivors and wants to cheese the game. I'm not gonna explain it again. You can rewind it and see what I said. Plus, I don't want to encourage it that much. Oppression, don't run. Yeah, you might get some info, but that assumes people don't hit the skill check. And yeah. Overcharge, why run that when you can just run Brine? You'll get info out of Brine and you'll get the faster regression. And no, I wouldn't stack them either. Like, you don't need to do that. This perk, Terrority's perk, don't run. Pop, Good utility. I'll put it right here. It was decent. It's not like top tier anymore, but you need to have a good idea of where survivors are at again to get the most value out of this perk. So you can choose the good gens to kick. Predator, don't run. Rancor, good utility, or good tracking rather. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best tracking perk in the game by any means. Wait, why'd I put it in mid? Put it in right, good. But there is a lot of subtleties and nuances to Rancor that make it very handy. So I talked about gens getting popped only with your knowledge. And so gens will pop at the point where you usually already have someone hooked. If you're a good ghosty and not neglecting your gens. And when someone's hooked and a gen pops, you'll know where everyone is and you can protect the hook very easily. Or way more easily. And intercept people going for saves. And it cannot be countered at all. So if you're looking for someone who's dead on hook, you can find them. It pairs well with Devour, I think. It tells you if people are close to your totem and how they're spread out amongst the gens. So you can kind of proxy the totem a little bit and see how people are doing their gens. And it'll also tell you if people are close to the totem. I might have repeated myself there. And it's good for the end game build thing. You could get a kill. It's very thematic. I love that. What else? Yeah, like in this day and age when you can counter aura perks really easily, Rancor is very good to run. This perk, don't run. Save the best for last. It's good if you want to get more value out of the gens you cannot stock. But you just won't be getting that many hits. And sometimes it's good to, sometimes you'll just have to down the obsession. So don't run. Merciless. Wait, okay, if the obsession's on a good gen, that's less of a priority because now you have other gens you can contest. But I mean, you just against good players, you won't be getting that many hits quickly enough. Floods of Rage. Let me check the timing of that perk. I forgot if there were underscores or something. I'll just get it from Sadako. Yeah, I'm not typing Scourge Hook Floods of Rage up here. 7 seconds. So that is counterable by just 1 token of distortion. Let me think. So after unhooking, which is a fine time in the game, it's not a good time to get info in the game. You want to be getting it before they get unhooked. That's the best time to get intel on where everyone's at, not after they've already been unhooked, I believe. Hold up. So with Scourge, with Floods of Rage, what you can do is hook someone, get intel on that, and when they unhook, then hook the next person and have like some memory of the previous instance of this perk proccing to have an idea of where everyone's at. But Scourge hooks a little niche, or a little RNG rather, and Rancor value counters distortion and all other anti-aura reading perks. I'd put it in mid tracking next to barbecue. Play with your food. Again, with play with your food, you need to have an idea of where everyone's at. So okay, let me talk about play with food. Counters sprint burst and all those exhaustion stuff. Counters spine chill to a fair extent. You can kind of brute force, I guess, and get your down with your speed. But again, you need to know where everyone is. have a good idea at least. Find your obsession. You don't want to farm stacks when you're in stealth and you have yet to get it down. You want to down people first, normally, which you can do if you're a good ghosty. Yep, that also works against Sprint Burst. But yeah, don't run it at the beginning, or don't get stacks at the beginning. Down people, get hook stages. Farm stacks when survivors are vulnerable, like when they're healing or when they need to do a hook save. Use your stacks to down someone who's already been hooked or vulnerable. And there's also those other instances where I mentioned that you can spend some time farming stacks. Like with it, you can pair it with Devour really well and farm the obsession and be able to defend your totem normally by just running people down and getting downs around your totem. Okay, but I also want to say this. If you want to learn how to be a good ghosty and you're still in that phase, do not run this perk. Don't run it. It's kind of a cheat perk. It is the best chase perk in the game for ghosty. It's busted. It is busted. I'm going to say that. It's broken. It's cracked. It's banned from a lot of official tournaments. And it bypasses the rules entirely. So if you want to be a good ghosty, you need to follow the rules, the ghosty code, if you must, and not rely on this perk. Some streamers I know really like this perk, but that will not make you a good ghosty player, trust me. Gift of Pain. So what it will do is survivors probably will opt to healing. Okay, assume in the case survivors heal up, they get less value from doing gens. But their gen will, they're probably gonna stack on with someone to do their gen, because doing a gen by themselves, that's gonna take way too much time. But if they do stack, that gen will still get done before you can contest it in the next hook pass or in the next hook cycle. Really what? Need to see some play with the food Ghostface gameplay. Maybe I'll use the perk again sometime. But yeah, what was I saying? Or they will heal up and just not be on gens, which is, if they're not on gens, they will try to body block for you, I guess, to get value out of not having to work on a gen. But that's kind of bad for them, especially if you've 99 them off the hook. If they don't heal at all, they're gonna put themselves in a risky position. Though they could pair with something like they could have off the record or something. Not worry too much. I'd put it in mid. Better than Monstrous Shrine. But I'd put Deadlock down here actually. Bitter Murmur. Why? It's a tracking perk. I'm gonna put it over here. I'll also put Dead Man Switch and tracking. Let's see, Pain Res. Nope, you don't want to be running this. It, especially after the patch, I'd argue it's even worse than pop post-patch, but even now, it doesn't guarantee gens that you actually want to save, gens that you can protect more easily than, like, say, open gens that survivors can do anytime without you being able to stop them. So, excuse me, don't run that. Shadowborn, don't run. Sloppy, I'd say mid utility. It's a slowdown, I guess. Comp Ghostface will probably run it on like Leary's or something, but that's only because they don't know how to play Ghosty. So yeah. Spies from the Shadows. Kind of niche. Don't run. Is it? Wait, let me check Spies again. I don't remember the range. $36 meters, that's not insignificant. It is RNG, of course, crows not being in the area. Shoot, I don't want to rely on RNG perks. I'd put it at the bottom of mid tracking. Some maps there just really aren't that many crows. Starstruck, don't run. You won't get really value out of it at all since you're gonna have to M1 chase someone to get it. Strider, you don't need to run. Surge, or Jolt rather. I know so many people like that perk. I don't think it's very good. It's not focused regression, like I mentioned. Focused slowdown, rather. It's just kind of there. It saves you time by not having to kick gens, but sometimes you want to be kicking the gen because of like Pop or Brine. So no, don't run. Sorry. Surveillance. You could pair it with the Ruin, I guess, and get some value, but nothing Discordance will not do for you if you're very skilled. Better than me, at least. So I'll put it at top of don't run. This Perk, don't run. Thanatophobia, again, haphazard, low energies, low value slowdown. Plus you need to actually get everyone injured to get value, so don't run. I'm gonna put it at the bottom. Thrilling Tremors, don't run. Did people actually like this perk at one point? I think they did. I just won't get that much value, I think. That you can't with something like Dead Man Switch. Well, okay, here's the thing. 60-second cooldown is kind of a pain. What else? Yeah. That's that basically. Yeah, it's a fine starter perk. Like it comes with the character, especially when you don't have something like any of the good tracking perks. Yeah, it's kind of mid, but more mid than mid. Tinkerer, don't run. You need to have an innate sense on when gens are going to pop. Discordance will help you with that. Trail of Torment, don't run. This perk, don't run. Don't run. Strider. Whispers. No, Whispers, not Strider. Shoot. I used to love it back then, and I'd say it's not a bad perk to run now, but I wouldn't combo it with Discordance, and I wouldn't run it over Discordance. So I think it's better than Lethal. I'm actually gonna move Floods up here, Whispers over here. It's not necessarily just for beginner ghosties. You can like clear areas of the map pretty well with it, and it might help you find someone who doesn't want to be found, like if they're dead on hook. And it's consistent information all around. It won't really help you in like game-changing snowball moments, like if you've already have someone hooked. Actually, you need to, yeah, you can get value, but you have to go like really far away from the hook. Otherwise, it's gonna be the hook person blocking the perk. Yeah, well, I mean, that was before a bunch of perks came out, so expansion tactics don't run. This perk, I don't really like it that much. Hold on, you might get some value out of this. Like, so, okay, if you think about it, some gems are next to lockers and some aren't. So if you do it and you don't see auras, they might be on the gens that aren't near the lockers. But you don't know that. You don't know that. You don't necessarily. Actually, okay, a good darkness reveal user will know which gens have lockers around them and can deduce that if they don't see auras, the survivors might be on the gens that don't have it. But again, you can. I wouldn't pair it with Discordance 2 tracking perks, and I wouldn't run it over Discordance. And not to mention all the counters to aura reading. They can just literally be sitting behind the gen and you won't be able to see them. But you can also get value out of it if people are just haphazardly next to a locker. I've never actually used it that much. It might have actual value. We'll put it mid tracking next to barbecue. Above Dead Man Switch. This perk Dissolution, don't run. Septic Touch, don't run. Shattered Hope, boons don't hurt you at all. Like, unless if the only time you really want to stuff a boon is where a lot of people are injured and you just want to slow them down even more. But if you're really good and survivors are good and you only get a few downs at a time, you shouldn't really care about stuffing the boon that much. It'll tell you where people might be healing. Yeah. And you can use that to your advantage by getting someone on the other side of the map from the boon. So you'll know one person's far away. But yeah, Shadow Hope. Don't need. This perk. If there's people like specifically choosing to camp the hook, you might get value. But it'll tell you where they are. You won't necessarily be able to chase them. And you'll also. So if you don't go after them, you might choose to either contest the hook, in which you'll be proxying the hook anyway, and you won't get much value out of this perk because the person will be nearby no matter what, and you'll be close to the hook regardless, or you could leave the hook and they will save, and in which point you won't get value anyway because they'll have saved, they'll have rescued at that point. What's decent but you haven't tried it? I'd put it at the bottom of mid utility because I feel like people camping hooks nearby or like staying hidden near hooks might be a strat at some point, but not today. This perk, Superior Anatomy, don't run. Play with your food is better by far. Terminus, don't run. This perk. I love it on other killers, just not Ghosty. I wish you could be able to use it on him somehow. It counters aura reading because the players will scream anyway. It's very consistent, but it only works when people are injured, which is sad. I'd run. It's really good on Wraith. Like it's part of my main Wraith build. But nope, on Ghosty, don't run. Hubris, don't run. Chase Perk, you won't. Um, Players can body block for their teammates, and you won't get M1 hits easily anyway. Insta down with what? Um, this perk right here. The perk, I forgot what it was. Nowhere to hide. You kick gens, it'll show people next to you. Okay. There's multiple uses I can think of for this perk. Number one is finding someone who may have like spine chill and they leave the gen early. But even if you know where they are, you can't get value. You'll know they're in the area because they left and the gen has progress on it. But you can't chase them, which is same effect with or without the perk. Also, if you're using it as like a general tracking tool, like say you have just say you leave like a gen with some progress, just so you could like in the middle of the map, just so you can kick it and see where people are. That's still kind of niche. You can use other better perks to have a good idea where people are after you've hooked someone. So yeah, people might use nowhere to hide sometimes, but I wouldn't say it's completely optimal. Yeah. Face of Darkness doesn't work because you're supposed to insta down with Ghosty. That's what I meant. If they somehow changed it so that it would proc when you insta down and change the conditions of the totem or healing, I'd honestly run it. It's really fun. Good value. Which Skull Merchant perk was this? This is Game of Foot. Um, Forgot. There's a bunch of things to it. But it gave you a speed boost. It did some other things. I got Skull Merchant just to get her to be one, but that's it. Grants a 5% haste status effect for 10 seconds after damaging a gen. Nope, you don't want to be running it on Ghosty. It seems like kind of a noob perk. Play through food does the job better. And you shouldn't be having issues with pallets and stuff if you're good. I'm gonna say it again. You shouldn't be chasing at all with Ghosty unless you have play through food. It's just not optimal. It's busted with Rancor? Yeah, I remember that. But to get value, either you'd have to not chase anyone all game and use it at the very end, or know exactly how long you've chased everyone. Which I guess if you're a real fanatic about this perk, you'd be able to calculate. Let me think. You could maybe combo it with play through food to get even extra speed, since 5% is not enough for getting everyone. You kill them, then you find more people. Maybe. Let me. I'm. I'm taking too long with this perk, but I'll spend more time thinking about it right now. So with everyone still alive, you won't get that much value at the end when using it with the Rancor, because there's just not enough time to mori everyone and hook, or mori everyone and before they open the gate. Now, if you have already killed someone and you want to use it at the end, you don't need to mori everyone. You only need to mori one person. Say if you're running this with no way out, which I assume most people would be. You have Rancor or something, you mori them, and you can just slug the last two players, or just slug one of them and chase the last one normally. Or yeah, you don't need to mori them all. So I wouldn't run it over Rancor, because Rancor, I actually use it for the info and not the mori. Mori is just a fun bonus. So yeah, I'd put it in don't run. This one, I forgot what. Let me just look at Skull Merchant's perks. I know what they all do. I just forgot numbers and stuff. Leverage. No, that was, yeah, that was leverage. That's just, no, no. You don't get value by hooking people 10 times with Ghosty. You get it by getting the right amount of, getting a few hooks, but putting a lot of effort into winning the game around those hooks with snowballs and stuff. If that makes any sense. So no, don't run. Black. So it's anti-aura, which is good. It only activates once per hook instance. And it doesn't even give you map wide aura. It's just like a small range. So assuming you had a dropped pallet just sitting there, which you likely won't have unless you're getting into a lot of chases, or breakable walls, which don't even spawn on every map, you'd have to break those and get people to scream and stuff within that range, at which point they'll know you're onto them. So, and they can probably triangulate your position. So you can't really down them to begin with. You just have some idea they're there, and I'm sure there's something you can do better. Something that does the job better. So don't run. So here you have it. Yeah, I'm gonna make a separate tier for this last end thing, just to drive home some certain points, called add a row below. So you can just take a look at this list now, use it, like remember it for the actual value of the perks, but don't run if learning. Boom. Play with the food, don't run it. Lethal, don't run it on Ghosty, run it on some other killer, okay? Like, yeah. You want to learn how to track people yourself without this perk, like environmental cues, process of elimination, that kind of thing. What else? Is there anything in here? Yeah. So yeah, do not run play the food if you want to be good at Ghosty. Just don't. What? Yeah. Okay, I'm just putting them back here. Whoever this was, somewhere. Okay, that will be it for now.